It is already 4:30. It is, we have also formed a quorum, so we'll start our meeting. Item 1 on the agenda. That's about the minutes of the previous meeting. No, not actually. We haven't got any minutes from the previous meeting. So just some information papers issued since the last meeting. We've already decided on the agenda for the next meeting. It's a special meeting, and in fact we have got 3 items, and they've already been agreed by members last time. Today we have a tight schedule, so why don't we go directly into the 3rd item on the agenda. And that's about creation of 2 supernumerary posts for the review of future regulatory framework for the electricity market. Let's invite the team from the administration to join us. While we are awaiting the arrival of the admin's team, and since today's focus will be the following item, so we propose to spend the time between 4:35 and 4:55 on this item. This is sort of to take a quick look of it before it goes to the ESC, and then for the remaining item, it has been scheduled for the time between 4:55 and 6:25 p.m. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To save time, I'm not going to introduce you one by one. Welcome, Secretary for the Environment. So please, first of all, comment on the creation of the 2 supernumerary posts. Yes, I'll be brief. The SCAs will expire in the year 2018. And then before we make any changes to the SCAs, we have to take into account all the relevant factors, reliable and environmentally friendly power supply, efficiency, and whether it meets the economic and social requirements of Hong Kong. Prior to 2016, the government has to talk to the 2 power companies as to whether they are ready for possible changes for the new CSAs and the transitional arrangements. We would like to consider whether there would be newcomers to the market, and so we want to look at the regulatory framework for the year in 2018. We want to conduct a review. This is a very important task because it is going to have far-reaching effects. We have to look at a number of issues, economic, legal, financial in nature, and then a lot of work will be involved as far as the legal side is concerned. In order to review the regulatory framework for the electricity market, we need to conduct extensive research, in particular in relation to the legal regulatory framework practiced in other countries, and it covers a lot of things, very complicated and specialized. Say, for example, we want to look at the contracts as well as other arrangements. We need to conduct a legal research. We need to examine the related issues. We have to address the matter from a legal point of view. So in the light of the scope, the complexity of the task, and also the admin has to talk to the 2 power companies, in particular in relation to possible changes, and we have to do so in 2016. Therefore, in the ENB and the DFJ, we have to add a team member respectively, and then they are directorate posts to take us through the review. We want to make sure that there will be sufficient resources to be dedicated to such a complex issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary. Members, I've got 3 names on the list. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, Tan Ka Piu, and Wong Kwok Heng. Lee Chet Yen, Elizabeth Kwok, Fernando Zhang, who else? And Jeffrey Lam.
跟住個議題咧，我驚會得拖得好長，所以咁同各位研究一下啦。有幾多位而家？7位，47就28噶咯喎，4分鐘就。
4 minutes each or 3 minutes. Sin Chung Kai. It doesn't matter if we are to have new posts. But then, in 1995, there was a lot of reserve capacity for the CLP, exceeding 50%. But then, as of today, I think the reserve capacity is still 50%. We're dwelling on the same issue. Time and again, the SCAs renewed have taken us back to the same position. We would like to open up the power market, the electricity market. I'm afraid no achievement has been made. So if we are to approve the creation of the 2 posts, I want to know whether the Secretary is confident that you can deliver on your promise. I think Mr. Sin has got has said that has told us what the community is concerned about. We'll also be talking about the 5-year development plan. So in a moment, you can put the question to the 2 power companies. I'm sure they will tell you about the change. To answer your question, I think we share the same expectation. That is, we want to do more in this direction. Not just in this direction. I just want to know whether you can promise to deliver. Can you give a promise to the panel? Secretary, for the reserve capacity. In a moment, the 2 electricity companies will tell you about their 5-year development plans. I'm sure they will submit their homework to you, so to speak. And then we'll also be carrying out research in this direction. In other words, no promise at all. So, Secretary, if you're not going to give a pledge, how am I going to support you? I think the previous performance was most disappointing. In 1995, when I joined the electrical, we already identified this problem. And then in 2008, you were not, of course, for the last one, you were not involved. Now, for the midterm review, you said that you can't do it. Now, you're going to create 2 posts, and yet you're still not confident to give a pledge. Secretary, for the reserve capacity, 3 questions: opening up the market, interconnection, and also reserve capacity. Mr. Sin, for the reserve capacity, as I have already said, the 2 electricity companies will come, and then they will certainly tell you about their 5-year development plans. And then for interconnection and opening the market, I'm sure there is this expectation and aspiration from the public as to how we're going to address it, how we're going to respond to it. We really want to be able to achieve that. Mr. Tang, of course, I agree to the request to have 2 additional posts. They have a huge team of PRs as well as lawyers. I mean, on the part of the power companies. Even if you get 2 more posts, I don't know whether you can sort of counter them, so to speak. Now, what I want to say is that in Annex A to the paper, it is said that you will formulate possible options having regard to the financial, technical, legal, and economic implications. You're going to consult the public about the energy mix, the fuel mix. So I think it is related to the opening up of the market. Undeniably, we have got some sort of news circulating around. Now, the CLP is already having cooperation with the mainland. So even if you are to open up the market, you are simply getting a partner of the CLP into the market. So what I want to say is that maybe we are simply talking about mainland suppliers, so that the percentage will be changing from 30%, 50% to 70%. And then for the 2 power companies, the total staff number will be 3,000. And we are already concerned about their pay, their conditions of service, as well as the succession. So please also look at the impact or implications concerning employment. So can two of them put up, take on the two power companies? Other than creation of two posts, we do have an independent consultant to do the work together with us. So we do have a full team to deal with the matter. As to Mr. Tang's concern about employment, my understanding is that the two power companies have got 5,000, one having 1,000 or more, and then the other 3,000, so a total of 5,000 staff members. Mr. Tang has asked a question similar to this one earlier on, so we do appreciate what he has got in mind. So we'll certainly look at the social implications as well. Well, it has been said that we haven't got a statutory framework to deal with electricity itself. So are you quite sure that you are ready, Vivian, for us to create the two supernumerary posts? We are mainly taking up the work of review. Once we have made a decision, and when we need to implement the policies, we need to review the manpower requirements. If necessary, we will ask for new resources under the normal procedures. Next, Mr. Wong Kwok Hing. A number of members came late and they put up their hands to ask questions. However, we need to start the following item at 5. I'm sure I expect more questions from you for that item. Before you came, 7 raised their hands, so 3 minutes each. For this item, we are sort of having a quick look of it, and then it will go to the ESC and then the FC. You can ask questions again. I need to draw a line here because we must start the second item at 5 o'clock, and then they will take us to 6:30, though I have the discretion to extend it by 15 minutes. Mr. Wong Kwok Hing, are we going to put the matter to the vote? No, not really. If we don't support it, it should not go to the ESC, but of course it's up to you, sir, to chair the meeting.
If members have divergent views, I want to oppose this proposal. So I want a vote to be taken at the end. All right, so towards the end, around 5 p.m., I would ask your inclination, Mr. Wong Kwok Hing. The government proposes to establish 2 posts to regulate these 2 power tigers. My question for the administration, does it mean that in the past the government has not done any preparation work to regulate these 2 power tigers? Is it too late to create these posts now? Does it mean that the government is just taking one step at a time? That's number 1. Number 2, I'm also worried that you are now proposing for 2 supernumerary posts at directorate grade. How long do they have to work before we can see some results? Are 2 posts adequate? Thank you, Mr. Wong. Thank you, Mr. Wong. In the past, we have done preliminary studies on this subject, and in the past we have created time-limited posts for half a year to participate in the work, and early next year we hope that the posts can last at least 2 years. One is in the DOJ, another is in my bureau, so they can focus on this area of work. My follow-up question, Chairman, the Secretary said that as far as the regulatory regime is concerned, the legal framework is an important part. Can you tell us how can the legal framework regulate the 2 power tigers, so to speak, effectively? Chairman, before we complete the review, and after 2018, we don't know yet today as to what the regulatory framework would be like. But what is important is in the review process, we have to look at experience in other jurisdictions. And if we are to open up the market and undertake studies in that area, we have to face some legal issues. For example, if we have to open up the power grid, there are new investors are brought in. Will third parties be allowed to use the power grid? And this involves complicated legal issues. And this is exactly what we have to deal with in the review in the next 2 years. Chairman, I'm disappointed that the government is just starting to do work in this area. In any case, I will support the proposal. Mr. Lee Chuk-yan. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing said the government started too late. Well, I wonder, the government has started work a long time ago, but it's just that they are not achieving any good results. Well, Secretary, how many studies have you already done on this? For example, interconnectivity of the power grids. Well, that point was mentioned during Stephen Yip's time. It's not a question about studies. Rather, you have the political determination to take it forward. Ultimately, if you are not going to take any action after the review, what's the use of the study or review? I bet that you have already got information in this area. How many years have you taken to conduct the studies? How many reports have you compiled? And we never know what the results of the studies are. So, Secretary, can you present the reports that you have done in the past? You have completed many studies and compiled many reports in the past. You have n number of reports. So what is this number n, and how determined are you on this subject, or on doing something in this subject? Vivian, you have been here all along. Can Vivian take that question? In the last review, I was not in this position, but to my understanding, in 2008, we signed the SCAs with the two power companies. We conducted an extensive public consultation in 2 phases, and for every phase, we came back to report on the results and consulted members. There have been reports, I know, but can we just dig out these reports and then we are done with the job? No, because in the past 10 years, in the electricity market in Hong Kong, not only in Hong Kong, but in our neighboring countries, the situation has undergone many changes. 10 years ago, we never thought about connecting power grids with neighboring countries and import more electricity. Now, because there have been rapid changes and good progress, so we are having this opportunity of making or undertaking studies on the new circumstances. I think the government is bankrupt in its reputation. Now, you have asked for many times funding from the government, and you have conducted studies, and then the results seem to be that there will be no go. So I doubt whether you have the political determination to do something this time. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. This review is very important, and this is something that people are very concerned about. So it's just right that the government should create these 2 posts. But I'm worried whether with the creation of these 2 posts, the government can do a good gatekeeping room. The public has the impression that the 2 power companies are too powerful. So in your discussions with the 2 companies, can you make it more transparent? Now, under this new review, I want to confirm, will the government lower the permitted rate of return? It now stands at 9.99%. Will the government review the system of linking the permitted rate of return with the fixed assets value? Will there be a penalty and reward system. So if can you raise the energy saving standards and with a penalty or a reward imposed correspondingly. Now, people want cleaner air, and we want the switch to cleaner fuel. Now, power companies have been telling us that a higher price has to be paid. Well, of course, we know that there would be a higher price, but that should not be passed on to the customers. I think the power companies should share the responsibility as well. So what's the administration's stance on this in its discussions with the power companies? 4 questions altogether. Thank you, Ms. Quat, for your question. So well, we would be adopting a people or customer-based approach, and the process of negotiation will be very transparent. And we would want to ensure that there is a safe, reliable supply of electricity while keeping the costs down. So we want to optimize the whole system, and this is something that we are studying now. Now, can we lower the 9.99%? So this is something that we will explore, whether there are any other options. So it's a basket of things that we would be looking at. I don't have anything to add. Interconnectivity between the 2 power grids and opening up the power grid, and whether the government will invest into the power grids. Are these the issues that the government will examine this time around? Yes, these are the issues which are interrelated, and that we are going to examine and study those. Dr. Fernando Zhang, the government will discuss with the 2 power companies. You just completed a discussion in your mid-term review. There are many points of dissent. You asked for lowering the permitted rate of return. The power companies didn't yield to your demand. The excess capacity, lower that. The 2 power companies don't agree to that. And for the approval of the tariff rate to be handed over to the EXCO, the 2 power companies don't agree to that. And then also for the facilities to reduce emissions to be excluded from the calculation of the fixed assets, the 2 power companies don't agree to it. And the government has an option to extend the SCA for another 5 years. Now you are proposing for the creation of 2 posts. But then maybe you come back and say that the 2 power companies don't agree with what you propose. And then you are forced to extend the SCA for another 5 years. So it doesn't work at all. It seems that we are like meat put on the chopping board. You have engaged 3 consultants to study the feasibility of interconnectivity between the 2 power grids, but nothing has been achieved. You have such a bad track record. How can we support you as electrical members? You have been asking for posts to be created incessantly, and you are engaging consultants to do this and that, but ultimately no difference is made. So please tell us. The 2 power companies have disagreed to many points during the mid-term review. Would you be considering those points of dissent before you consider whether to extend the SCA for another 5 years? Now, for the mid-term review, we are bound by the existing provisions of the SCA. And it says that the government and the 2 power companies have the right to make proposals of change, but all the proposed changes have to be agreed upon by all parties. So this is what is written down in the SCA. So we have to respect the spirit of the SCA. Now, we have made our proposals, and that was not agreed on by the power companies due to their own consideration. So that's nothing we can do about it. But for the 2018 review, we are not bound by so many constraints. So we do have greater bargaining power. Next, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Thank you, Chairman. The EMB has a lot of work to do in the next 5 years. After the Fukushima incident, the SARG has shelved this 541 fuel mix proposal. When will a new proposal be presented? I believe that in the next 5 years or thereafter, you must discuss with the two power companies on the new fuel mix. Now, in the past couple of years, the fuel costs have fluctuated greatly in the market. So my first question, Secretary, when will you present us with a new fuel mix proposal? I believe that you have to do some consultation on that. Would you still retain the part on the nuclear energy? As for new investments, investments on replacements, these are factors will affect the power company's development plans. I'll ask my second question later on. Vivian, please. 2 questions. That is about the future fuel mix. We will conduct public consultation, and actually in Annex A, for the new post to be created, part of his duties is to conduct public consultation on the fuel mix review. So that is part of the plan. We want to go ahead with the consultation as soon as possible because we know that people are very concerned about it, and that is going to affect the electricity supply of Hong Kong in the future. We want to do it ASAP. Now, in the process, Mr. Lam also mentioned whether nuclear energy will be an option still. Well, we haven't started the consultation yet, so what I can say now is that we will present different options in the consultation document. All the pros and cons will be listed. So the public will be giving us feedback on very detailed, based on detailed information. As to the second question, the decisions on the fuel mix will affect the capital investment of the two power companies. We know that, and in the process of our discussions, we have touched on that subject as well. Members, well, we must allow sufficient time for discussion in the next agenda item. Now, there are still 2 members who wish to speak on the present agenda item. Well, I will take a vote. Those in favor, please raise your hands. If you support it to be submitted to the Establishment Subcommittee. I claim a division, Chairman. Please, from the back row, Andrew Lang, Jeffrey Lam, UC Wing. In the middle row. And Mr. Christopher Chung. Mr. Lam Tai Fai? I need someone to help me out. Chong Kok Ban, Elizabeth Quad, Tan Ka Pew, Sin Chung Kai, Charles Mok, Kenneth Leung. All right, you are in favor. Those against, Albert Chan and Ronnie Tong. 2.
Those who are in abstention, Mr. Fernando Zhang. All right. The majority of members present are in support. The ground of my refusal or opposition is that given the complexity of the negotiation, it was even more so in the 1990s. At that time, there wasn't any post-creation requirement, so it is most unreasonable. All right. It has been resolved. So we'll invite the two power the two power companies to come in. I want to take this opportunity to say this. I think Jeffrey Lam must have a hard time last year when he chaired the panel. In fact, other than Mr. K.S. Wong, we have also got Mr. Greg So as well as Mr. Anthony Cheung, the three directors of bureaus. Today I had an argument with them. At first they would like to put in a third item. There won't be time for 3 items. So I seek your views. Do you mind having special meetings? So either they have nothing for us or they come all at the same time. I don't agree to having 3 items in one single day. You won't be able to ask questions. So please consider whether we have 2 important items only so that we have sufficient time for Q&As. So
check 係咪可能要開多幾個特別會議啊，令到呢啲係可以啊詳細啲嘅討論，就唔係好似。
So we would consider whether, of course, later on items will go to the ESC and then the FC. You would have time to ask questions again, but I think maybe the admin hasn't answered your questions. While they're taking their seat, I would like to say that, in fact, the 2 power companies have provided supplementary information to you. But then in your version, some of the confidential information has been blocked. There is one copy which has the confidential information as well, has been deposited with the Secretariat. So tomorrow, if you want to inspect those documents, you may go to our Secretariat. Just now, members have already raised their hands, and you have already quickly jotted down the names. So please tell me. Wong Kwok Hing, Jeffrey Lam, Lam Dai Fai, Sin Chung Kai, Chung Kok Ban, Elizabeth Quat, Tang Gao Biu, Fernando Zhang, Sid Ho, Lee Chet Yen, Kenneth Leung, and Dennis Kwok. How many of them? 12. Once again, Wong Kwok Hing, Jeffrey Lam, Lam Dai Fai, Sin Chung Kai, Chung Kok Ban, Elizabeth Quat, Tang Gao Biu, Fernando Zhang, Sid Ho, Lee Chet Yen, Dennis Kwok. I've got down all your names. Well, the other members may also want to raise their hands. And Chen Kem Lam. 12. Ronnie Tong, would you like to raise your hand? I think you really want to ask a question. You have raised your hand, but we haven't got your name, so let's make a record. Wu Chi Wai, you need to continue. We need to get 2 more secretaries to help us. Whose name has been omitted? All right. First of all, I need to have your consent. We're supposed to end by 6:30. I think we must extend it by 15 minutes. So do you agree to have it until 6:45? All right. This has been dealt with. Dr. Lo Kwok Wai, would you like to ask questions? If you do, please raise your hand. 14 altogether. Well, Secretary, well, we have a tight schedule. So I already suggested to you that I would give you 5 minutes, Secretary. And then for the 2 power companies, yes, we have got a big pile of papers. So again, 5 minutes each for the power companies. So 15 minutes altogether for the 3 parties. For members, 4 minutes each. And 40 members in total. Dr. Lo Wai Kok, you will be the 15th to ask questions. Ronnie Tong. In fact, I raised my hand right in the beginning. Slightly after 6, I have to leave. So can you advance my name? It's quite unfair for me to start from the back, but just it was easier for me to do so. Can I speak after him? All right, I won't read out the names. I think you know more or less when it will be your turn. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The administration has already examined the development plans. We have got the assistance of an independent consultant. We examined the needs, the timing, and budgets for individual items. And for those indispensable proposed capital items, only such will be accepted, so as to make sure that we have reliable, safe, and reasonably priced electricity. For 2014 to 2018, well, after careful and detailed discussion, both power companies have agreed to shelve certain items or scale down certain items. And then for other items, the cost has been made more rational. For the HEC, for the 5-year plan, the capital expenditure, instead of $25.4 billion, 49% has been cut to $13 billion. And then for CLP, a reduction of 21% from $43.4 billion to $34.1 billion. So for their proposed capital expenditure, when compared with the 5-year development plans, they are lower. In the 2014 to 2018 development plans, the only generation system that will be approved provisionally, we allow the HEC to have one gas-fueled item, and this item will still await the administration's review of the fuel mix as well as the post-2018 review, and then it will be confirmed in writing before it can go ahead. Secondly, for the year 2014 tariff review, for 2014 to 18 for the development plans, they have already included the tariff review for 2014, and the two power companies will adjust the basic tariffs, but then taking into account their fuel price clause adjustments. For HEC, the net tariff will remain the same. In other words, it will be frozen. For CLP, for the net tariff, it will be adjusted upwards by 3.9%. And then thirdly, for 2015 to 2018, since we're talking about 5-year development plan, so the two power companies, in the light of what information they have got, the best information they have got, so for the years 2015 to 2018, on average, the basic tariff as well as the FPC and the net tariffs, they have made some projections. Of course, the administration, towards the end of every year, when there is a tariff review, we will look at the situation in the previous year as well as the various components in the development plan and how they have varied. We'll talk to the power companies about the actual tariff reviews. For 2015 to 18, on average, the average tariffs will be like the following. HEC, annual increase 1% on average. CLP on average 1.8% upward increase. And then for HEC, for the net tariff for 2015 to 2018, it will remain stable. For CLP, it is expected that on average the net tariff will have a upward trend, and then for the yearly increase will range between 4.1% and 11.8%, mainly because of the increase in the fuel cost, and it is reflected in two ways. First of all, the CLP will be using more expensive fuel source because the current gas supply will soon run out, and then we have the CAP 311 technical memorandum, and then the emission caps have been tightened so as to improve the overall air quality of Hong Kong. So we'll continue to talk to CLP as to how the pressure to increase the tariff can be eased in the coming years. Of course, we want to save energy so that we can save money, we can save energy. I would suggest that the floor be given to the two power companies to give you a briefing. Thank you. Next, Mr. Wen from the HEC. Please remember that you've got 5 minutes. Mr. Chairman, members, We are glad that the EXCO has approved the development plan for years 2014 to 18, so that we can have capital expenditure of 13 billion Hong Kong dollars, so as to provide reliable and safe electricity supply to the community. It is similar to the planned $12.3 billion. I want to say that this is a practical and cautious plan. First of all, the basic tariff. For the past 4 years, labor costs, material costs, and contract price have increased. But then our operating expenditure has increased. At the same time, inflation has gone up by 13%. But then since 2009, the basic tariff has only gone up very slightly by 0.2 cents. And then from the TSF, we have money from that so as to ease the burden. But then the fund has been depleted. Therefore, next year, for the basic tariff, it has to be increased by 7.1%. But then for the fuel cost, it doesn't fluctuate much and the fuel price can come down by 7.1%. When the two are put together, they offset each other, and therefore we're able to freeze the 2014 net tariff across the board. We have got 560,000 customers. For the coming year, the tariff rates will remain the same. For the coming 4 years, for basic tariff and the fuel costs, we expect some slight changes. We'll do our utmost to make sure that the net tariff will remain the same. It is expected that in the coming 5 years, the HEC doesn't have to adjust the tariff rates. Mr. Chairman, I think the development plan has already taken into account the interests of various stakeholders and can be in line with the energy policy of the administration. I give the floor to my colleague for a more detailed explanation. Mr. Chairman, members, the EXCO has approved our capital expenditure of $13 billion for the coming 5 years, comparable to $12.3 billion in the previous 5 years. We are freezing the 2014 net tariff. In the new development plan, for the coming 5 years, the net tariffs will remain the same. When compared with 10 years ago, that is, for the year 2008, there is only a slight increase of 5.9%. Now come to the next slide. For the coming 5 years, for our capital expenditure, $13 billion divided into two parts. First, power generation, taking up $6.1 billion, and then transmission and distribution, $5.3 billion, and then on customer services and corporate development, $1.6 billion. And then thirdly, we come to the third slide.
On power generation, we have 3 coal-fired units and 1 gas-fired unit, and they will retire from 2017 onwards. And to alleviate the tariff increase pressure arising from installing new generation facilities, Hong Kong Electric will extend the service life of an existing coal-fired unit, L2, and we have to commission a new gas-fired unit by 2020 to maintain our reliable power supply and about 30% gas generation. This project will have to wait until the government has completed its review on the regulatory framework and the fuel mix. Fourthly, transmission and distribution system. HEC will construct new facilities to support various projects, including MTR station to Central Link and South Island Line. And we will improve zone electricity supply and distribution networks to enhance supply reliability and meet load demand. HKE has all along attached importance to customer services and corporate development. We will replace IT systems, including customer information system, energy management system, and distribution management system, and metering and communication systems, etc. The fifth slide. Let's look at this graph. The red line at the top, you can tell that the net tariff of HEC from 2014 to 2018, the net tariff will be kept at the level at 2013. First of all, we will freeze the tariff in 2014. Let's look at this table. although there will be a rise of 7.1 cents of basic tariff to 101.8 cents per unit, but then there will be a corresponding drop of 7.1 cents for fuel clause charge. So these two sums offset each other, and then the net tariff will be maintained at 134.9 and in 2014. I'm sorry, you've passed your 5 minutes. Sorry. Mr. Poon from CLP. Thank you, Chairman. Well, 5-year development plan, we have to take into consideration the needs posed by various developments, including major infrastructure projects and new development areas. And most of these fall within our service areas, CLP's service areas. We have to ensure the supply reliability of our network and improve environmental performance. Our goal is to provide safe and reliable supply of electricity. And we must meet the emission caps laid down in 2010. And the total capex is $34.1 billion, a reduction of 18% compared with the 2010 development plan. We have tried to manage our finance prudently. The basic tariff for 2014 is the same level as 10 years ago, and in the coming 5 years, the average increase per year is 1.8%. In 1996, the CLP started using cleaner natural gas. We started early, so in order to achieve the 2015 emission requirements, we need to increase the portion of gas to generate electricity. We have relatively more gas-fired generators, and in 2015 we have to increase the portion of gas generation by 100%, and we have to meet with the requirements of the technical memorandum signed by the Hong Kong and mainland government, and we need to import gas from the WEP projects. So despite this, we will try our best to minimize the impact. The total fuel cost has risen by 97% compared to the last development plan. So there is still pressure to increase tariff in the next few years. In fact, we have many measures to adjust downwards the tariff, including postponing the use of natural gas to a later time, and enhancing the performance of our generators, and also whether within a short time we can import more nuclear energy from Daya Bay plant. There are 4 main points on the 2014 tariff. The average total tariff will increase by 3.9%. The basic tariff has increased by 88. Secondly, we would also encourage users to save energy. So low consumption users, i.e. those using 400 units per month, i.e. 33% of our domestic users and 43% of our general business users, their tariff will remain unchanged. And we will also increase the seventh tariff block, because the weather is cooler. So there will be a 1.2 billion in the fuel clause recovery account, but then by 2015, even if we are going to draw down from the balance, there will be a deficit of 1.5 billion Hong Kong dollars. We have been here for over 100 years. We have tried to provide a reliable electricity supply. We know that our work we work hard, and we hope to encourage people to save energy. We will do more public education. We hope that people will support us in our energy conservation measures. We will continue with our community care subsidy scheme and also set a full energy efficient electrical appliances subsidy program. And we'll help elderly replace their fluorescent light bulbs, and we would be also launching the Energy Efficiency Fund to help the residential buildings. I have worked in the trade for 30 years. I've witnessed many changes, and all the challenges have been overcome. And we hope to work together with various stakeholders to resolve the problem of rising fuel costs. Thank you. Members, you have 4 minutes each. You can direct your questions specifically at the different parties here. So, members, your order is this: Wong Kwok Hing, Jeffrey Lam, Ronnie Tong, Lam Tai Fai, Sin Chung Kwai, Chung Kwok Pan, Elizabeth Kwok, Tang Kiu Ban, Fernando Zhang, Li Chak Yen, Sit Ho, Leung Kai Chang, and Chen Kam Lam. First one, Mr. Wong Kwok Hing, and also Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Are you in a rush? If yes, I will give you priority. Okay, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, you will be the last. A total of 16 members, 4 minutes each. Chairman. The two power companies' report give me this impression. The CLP is trying to maximize its increase in tariff. Hong Kong Electric is freezing its tariff. How come that CLP is proposing a 3.9% increase? It is trying to maximize its increase. Now, various statistics show us that workers' wages will increase by only 1%, far below the 3.9% proposed by CLP. CLP just now told us that fuel costs have gone down by 20% already. And then they expect a further fuel costs rises, and then they are proposing 3.9% increase. This is totally unacceptable. We all know that CLP sells electricity to the mainland, but then the investment in these facilities is counted towards the fixed assets for calculation of the permitted rate of return. So they are shortchanging Hong Kong people. So my question for the CLP, can you further adjust downwards the tariff increase rate? Government, why did you allow a high rate as 3.9%? Third question for Hong Kong Electric. You propose to freeze the tariff in the next year, but then there are reports saying that on Lamma Island you have a 13-year plot. It has been left vacant, and there is just only one piece of equipment there, and that has been calculated towards the fixed value, fixed asset value of $11.8 billion. So you are enlarging the base. So are you shortchanging the your customers? Please be succinct in your answer. Thank you. Our rise is because of non-fuel operating costs, and also there are many new infrastructure projects, and then there is almost a depletion of the tariff stabilizing fund. Overall, 30% and 40% of the domestic users and business users respectively will not be affected by the tariff increase. Now, for the revenue generated from the mainland, 80% will be clawed back to Hong Kong market, and that helps in reducing 1% of the tariff in 2011. Now, the surplus in the account is to balance out the rising fuel costs, and we hope to use that to offset the fuel rising fuel costs in 2015. Secretary, we have tried to play a good gatekeeping role to reduce tariff increase. Like last year, a large number of the users won't be affected by the tariff increase. Well, Secretary, they are maximizing the increase with a 3.9% increase. How can that be? How would you accept a 3.9%? Hong Kong Electric, can you supplement? So, well, your time is up, Mr. Wong. Next time, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. The two power companies have claimed that they provide a reliable source of supply, but then I see that the generating units are getting old and there is about time they are to retire. Now, they said that they are going to extend the lifespan of these units and major repair works have to be undertaken. Will the efficiency of the units be affected? Now, if there is a breakdown in the power supply, will there be any contingency measures? Will that affect the tariff as well? So what work have you done to ensure that in the next 5 years that we will be provided with the same reliable service? Now, for Hong Kong Electric, you are going to invest $13 billion into the new generating unit. This is not confirmed yet because you have to wait for the confirmation from the government, and it is going to be built after 2018. So in the next 5 years, I want the two power companies to undertake that the power supply is reliable. CLP first. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Lam, for your question. Of course, we attach a lot of importance to reliability. From 2017 onwards, some generators will retire, and 17, 2 units, and 18, 1 unit, and in 2020, 1 gas-fired generating unit will retire. But in order to suppress pressure on tariff increase, we opt not to replace these generating units immediately. So we agree with the government that the LT unit, we try to replace the parts to try to prolong its lifespans. But for the 2 units, L1 and L3, these two have to retire in 2018. And after these 2 units retire, we have 3735 kilowatt, and we will be left with 3235 after these 2 units are gone. So it's on the low side. And then in 2020, we have to replace another unit, and we have to reduce 340 kilowatts again. Then we are left with 2,900 kilowatt. So the reserve capacity is only 11%. So that's why we need in 2020, we have to install a new or commission a new gas-fired generating unit. We don't do that promptly. The excessive capacity will be lowered by half, and the gas fired electricity will be dropping, and the emission standards will be affected.
Administration, we have to make sure that the liability or reliability of the power supply will be maintained. So we did assess the maximum demand in the next 5 years. This is a very important step. Having seen that, we can then decide whether they need a new generation unit. This is to make sure that there won't be a problem with reliability. Next, Ronnie Tong. Every year round about this time, it seems that we are working for the 2 power companies. They are making a profit, but then we are receiving a pay cut because they would like to increase their tariffs. For the FCC, Mr. Chairman, when we turn to the annex, for HEC, I think it is quite stable, between 30 and 35. For CLP, drastic increase, 22% to 56% in 2018, accounting for more than half of the tariff. So my question is the government helpless in the face of such a scenario, so that the FCC is being used to lead the tariff increase? And then another question is, in the past, the power companies made a wrong judgment about the assessment of the FCC, and as a result, the fund as well as the accounts were subject to great fluctuations. So has the administration assessed the following? There's for CLP, for the 5-year development plan, I want to know whether there has been some exaggeration or wrong assessment. Administration. Mr. Chairman, for the fuel cost and the FCC, for both companies, for the 5-year development plan, for coal price and the natural gas price, they have to forecast the pricing, and they're quite close. We asked our consultant to take a look, and it's found to be reasonable. And then when it is reflected in a tariff, for one it is higher, the other is lower. This is mainly because for the CLP, they are faced with two issues. I'm sure in a moment CLP will supplement. First of all, the old contract has expired, and then they have exhausted the cheaper gas supply they need to get from the new supply, and then the new price is more expensive than the old one. And then in 2015, we have the Air Pollution Control Ordinance. And then for the emission caps, we are going to have the new emission caps. And as a result, CLP must make greater use of natural gas. So they're using more, and then the price has gone up, and so the cost has gone up. I think we need to understand that for them to use natural gas to generate electricity, this is in line with our desire to use clean fuel so as to reduce air pollution in Hong Kong. We know that they're going to make use of different measures to suppress the rate of increase for their tariff. Maybe CLP can be invited to explain. I want to know whether the Secretary can confirm that they don't think that anything has been exaggerated. Well, in the review process, we have got the assistance of various consultants. We believe that as of today, for those information submitted by the two companies, in particular for the 2014 tariff adjustments, we believe that they are reasonable. For 2015 to 2018, for the tariff forecast, I think it is merely based on the best available information. This is the best forecast. Well, every year, towards the end of the year, we have the annual tariff review, and then the actual rate will then be decided. So other than the 2014 tariff review, which will come into effect on the 1st of January, for those in 15 to 18, well, in fact, it is just an estimate. Can I ask this question again? That is, the government is helpless. The government cannot do anything to ease the burden when it comes to the tariff increase. Anything from admin? No. Next, Mr. Lam Tai Fai. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Li Ka-shing mustn't withdraw. Now, for HEC, I think they are being merciful. While everything is putting up the prices, they now make an announcement. They won't increase the tariff and won't do so for 5 years to come. We know nothing about the very complicated things of fuel cross charge, but then we are grateful to HEC for not increasing the tariff. And I think the comparison is just so obvious. CLP is maximizing the permitted rate of increase. Today, we have the senior management of the two power companies here. Now, for HEC, you may comment on this. For CLP, please don't. In relation to political development, well, within the basic law, there are two major principles. when it comes to political development. And that's about meeting the interests of various walks of life and also in line with the actual situation in Hong Kong. So for CLP to have this culture to ignore the interests of different strata of the society, now the wealth gap is huge and then there's a lot of grievance and we have seen price increases in all sorts of things. You ignore such and you're still increasing the tariff. So given such a culture, please don't comment on the political development because it won't be conducive to stability and prosperity. Now, for public utilities, you are being protected, so you need to have social corporate responsibility. You have to rise to help us to survive the difficulties. CLP is sort of unpopular when compared with HEC. Now, we've been given a number of figures. You just want to conjure up a picture to say that you must increase the tariff. You just stop increasing the tariff, then you don't have to elaborate on so much. This year, 3.5%. You have got the basic tariff. And then for the FCC, it remains the same. Which page? Another page, page 4. Yes, page 4. It is said that on the but then you're only talking about the basic tariff. I think you haven't really talked about the FCC. In other words, for the net tariff, you haven't told us about the figure. If I understand it incorrectly, please tell me. 1.8%, it seems that it is a slight increase. But is that the net tariff? Have you included the FCC? So what is the final figure? What is the price that we have to pay? If it is 1.8% on average per year only, then of course it's good. So my question is, for the next 5 years, what about the tariff rate of increase? Is it just 1.8% per year for 5 years? That's for the CLP. Otherwise, merely looking at this one, you will think that it's just 1.8% only. But in fact, it is 5.9, 6.9, 7.9%, so on and so forth, having taken into account the FCC. I understand. I hope they do. For the next 5 years, the basic tariff 1.8% per year on average. For the FCC, it won't change in 2014. For the rest, for the remaining years, only a forecast. In 1996, we started to use natural gas and clean gas. We started earlier. In 2015, we have to meet the new and more stringent emissions cap. Since we have got more natural gas generation units, so that would account for over 90% of the cost increase. We have to double the capacity in relation to gas-fired generation. We have had the memorandum signed, and we're going to spend more on the west-east transmission of gas. So it will be more than 1.8% in the coming years. How come that the HEC is so accurate about the projection? Can you get them to help you, Mr. Poon? We haven't got anything to add. All right, Mr. Sin. For HEC, it is said that they are merciful because if you care to turn to their information, even for the coming year, the HEC is still paying 26% more than CLP customers, so it is still expensive. I don't know why the government is approving $13 billion of capital expenditure. In the past, there was overestimation, or the HEC is being allowed to overestimate. Which page? $13 billion. Page 2, yes, have it shown on the screen. I don't see a lot of new developments on the Hong Kong island. How come that it is still $13 billion? Such an investment would increase the basic tariff. It appears that the HEC is freezing the tariff, but then it is 7.1%. The rate of increase is higher than that of CLP. For the FCC, HEC is expecting a drop. Had it remained the same, then next year there will be an automatic increase. So the core of the issue is, why is the administration approving $13 billion capital project? L10 may not necessarily go ahead, but then the administration has always been wrong in the calculations. How come that there can be 50% of excess or reserve capacity? Slide number 8 of the CLP. $1.2 billion in relation to the FCC account. You're not going to return the money to us. And then you say that it will be in the deficit for $1.5 billion. But you're supposed to pay interest, but then you use HIBOR, 0.21%, but then you give 4% to them. It's more than, and for I-bond, it is more than that. Can you not give us better treatment? So you are taking away $30 million from us. Could you answer the question? I'll answer, and then HEC can supplement. Well, we approved the 5-year plan. It is a very practical one. We can see that for the basic tariff, the adjustment is fine and minimal. 7.1%, you still say that it is a small increase. Basic tariff, HEC. So for 5 years, I'm talking about the 5-year horizon. HEC can supplement. Page 6 is 7.1%. Page 6, 7.1%. 7.1 cent. Is 7.1. Yes, Mr. Sin. About reserve capacity. After the 5 years, the development plan, I think there will be major downward adjustment. HEC can supplement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We, in our presentation, said that since 2009 up to now, basically, inflation has gone up by 13%, and yet we have only increased by 0.2 cent. We have been exercising self-constraint when it comes to increases, because for the FCC, in the year 2010, we doubled the use of gas, and then for the FCC, for the new gas, the price is 4 times that of the old price. So we have already been suppressing the rate of increase for the basic tariff. So as of now, we have already exhausted all sorts of means. And then for the tariff stabilization fund, it has already run out. For 10 full years, we have only increased by 6.9 cents, and I think it is a very modest one. Sorry. Will there be a second round? I'm sorry. We are only getting to 6 members, and then we have got 16 on the list. It would far exceed 6:45. I don't have the mandate to extend the meeting beyond that. If the questions haven't been answered, you can ask for a written reply. Mr. Chung Kwok-man, for natural gas, it is expected the rate of increase will be high. For the fuel mix, it is said that for nuclear power, the weighting can be increased.
But of course, I understand after the Fukushima incident, nuclear energy will be shelved for the time being. The CLP just mentioned that it will consider buying more nuclear power from Daya Bay. Now, we know that in Guangdong province, there will be more commissioning of more nuclear power plants to the east, west, and north of Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is bound to be affected if there are any accidents. So in that case, would you consider buying more nuclear power from Guangdong? You may invest sums of money in building generating units, but I think it's even cheaper to install a cable to introduce nuclear power from nuclear power plants. I think we are going to be surrounded by nuclear plants all around, so there's nothing much we can do about it. About the future fuel mix, very soon we will conduct a consultation exercise, and we would make detailed analysis of the impact of various options. If people want more nuclear power, then we'll look at the impact on the costs, whether it can really be as cheap as we think. can I defer to CLB to tackle the question on the arrangement between itself and Daya Bay? Because of rising fuel costs, in the next few years we will strive to deal with the problem, including negotiating with the Daya Bay to bring in more nuclear energy in the short term. Now we are getting 70% already. The CLP has a dedicated cable to connect to the Daya Bay plant, and we don't need to install extra cables, and it won't undermine the safety. I think this is a feasible option. Chairman, apart from Daya Bay, there are other nuclear plants being built. Would you consider buying from these other plants so that we can alleviate the pressure on electricity tariff? Would the Secretary tackle this question? Would it be cheaper to buy nuclear power from other nuclear plants in Guangdong? As I said, we would be conducting a consultation on the fuel mix very soon, and all the details will be laid out in that paper. The impact on prices of the various options, the timing of the options. And even if they do have the nuclear plants, we might have to build dedicated cables to connect to them. And these are technical issues that we have to consider. So that will also be covered in this very comprehensive consultation that we will launch soon. Next one is Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. The two power companies are proposing tariff increase year after year, and they always try to maximize their profits. HEC is freezing the tariff, and then CLP's rate is close to inflation rate. But in any case, they're maximizing their profits. So my question for the administration, should the administration ask that the increase be minimized given the very big profits? My question then for the CLP. The CLP says that natural gas is getting more costly and they are under great pressure. Why is it that the natural gas they buy is more costly than other sources? It's from the west to east transmission is $15 to $20, and I know that from some other Chinese companies, they can supply natural gas at a cheaper rate. And also near Yaqing gas field, there is a cheaper source of natural gas. Can the CLP consider these other sources? Now also, why the CLP has always made the wrong estimates of the fuel surcharge. And in the PowerPoint presentation, they have the FCRL in 2013. They have a surplus of $1.2 billion, and they told us in 2015 that there will be a deficit of $1.5 billion. So they are they are confusing the public with all these figures. I think you should immediately rebate the users of this amount. You should do it on a monthly basis and on a reimbursement basis. CLP, as I explained, the increase in the basic tariff, I have given an explanation. And 20 years ago, we signed this contract with Yaqing enjoying a very cheap source of natural gas. Now, because the Yaqing gas field is being depleted and we have to meet with the tightened emission caps in 2015, we have to look for alternative sources. In 2018, for the three sources, the WEP2 gas can help us out in 2015 so that we can meet with the emission caps. But then it's not going to be cheap. It will be in line with international market prices. And in 2015, we will be signing with the COO CNOOC to help alleviate the supply. But this is a small gas field, and the price can't be the same as that 20 years ago. We will be exploring the gas field in South China Seas as well. Now, for the FCA, we are managing it on a cost reimbursement basis. So whenever it is needed, we will draw down, and we will not be making a profit out of this. The interest, we will not pocket. The interest rate now is around 5%. Secretary? Nothing to add from me. Next one, Mr. Tan Ka-piu. Thank you, Chairman. The two companies are always making a profit. They are so profitable. The taxi drivers have to shoulder their own fuel rises in fueling costs, while the power companies are passing all these on to the customers. Let me refer you to the paper in the electrical background brief. The net tariff will increase by 30% from 2014 to 2018, including the rising fuel costs. Is this a right estimate? I want to hear the views of the Secretary. Second, if we don't want to pay so much on electricity, we should use less electricity. Have you tried to do more on these two fronts? Would you be asking the CLP to introduce a progressive tariff structure? Have you done enough to encourage the business customers to save energy? Have you done anything on that front? Thank you, Mr. Tan Ka-piu. We've tried our best. There is a market high increase in the fuel cost of CLP, and that is because the Yaqing gas field is being depleted. But then the projection is 39%. This is staggering. Now, apart from the Yaqing gas field problem, we have to be mindful that there are rising prices of natural gas, a rise of over 90%. This is a drastic increase. So we are trying to gatekeep. We will take care, especially the domestic users and the small businesses and grassroots people. Even with that increase, 1/3 of the people of Hong Kong and 44% of the small businesses won't be affected by the increase. We try to strike a balance. We want to take a special care of the grassroots. Now, the estimate that you talked about were compiled on the best information available to us. But in the future, if we are to approve tariff increase, we will look at the real situation before approving any increase. So, Secretary, do you think you are in a passive position? There is nothing much you can do apart from at the end of the year when you're discussing the tariff increase with the two power companies. Perhaps the CLP can supplement. We have tried to urge the CLP to resort to various means to alleviate pressure on tariff increase. Can you ask them to come up with hard targets and indicators, and also progressive tariff structure? Can that be implemented? We try to enable the society to save energy as a whole, and the reserve capacity is needed in a way. Dr. Fernando Zhang. For many years, we have been shortchanged by the two power companies who have raised tariff year by year. But it's a good news that HEC says that it is going to be freezing the tariff in the next few years. But then at a time when we have excess capacity, why do they still need to invest into a new generating unit? In 2000, we have approved for the building of 6 generating units on Lamma Island on a site of 22 hectares, but they've never done that. The excessive capacity is 50% every year. For Hong Kong Island, the demand for electricity has slightly dropped. So I don't get it. I don't know how much more electricity we need in the next 5 years. So in that case, why do we allow them to invest $13 billion to build another generating unit? We talk about liquefied natural gas, which should be cheaper than natural gas. So can the administration explain why it's necessary to have this project, the new generating unit? Perhaps the HEC can supplement, as I said, in the next few years. There will be several generating units which will retire. Now we allow them to install 1 new generating unit. So the reserve capacity will drop drastically. HEC, please. Thank you, Chairman. Let me reiterate. In 2017, 1 unit will retire. There should be originally 2 units, but we agree to retain 1 because we are installing some desulfurization facilities there. And in 2018, another 1 will retire. And then there will be a reduction of 500 kilowatt. And in 2020, there will be another gas-fired unit which will retire. And then that will be a drop of 345 MW. So that means that we will have a reserve capacity of 24%, which is on the low side. And for the unit which will retire in 2020 is a gas-fired unit. We just have 2 gas-fired units. If that one is going to retire, and that means that the pool ratio of gas-fired will drop from 30% to 15%, and that is going to affect air quality. So that's why we propose that there will be a new gas-fired unit to be built in 2020.
This will last until 2018, but then we're talking about opening up the grid work. If it is only in 2020 that something can be done. But if, say, assuming that in 2018 we're going to open up the market, and if there is interconnection between CLP and HEC, then there is no need to have an additional generation unit. So I think the administration has a duty. If we start having interconnection, then you can't lightly give approval to the construction of new generation units. Sit home. Yes, I'm also on the question of generating units. It is said that in the coming years there won't be an increase of tariffs. But what about L10? In 2016, probably it will be included. So are you trying to give us some nice figures telling us that there won't be increases for a number of years? You make sure that we find it acceptable first, and then later on when you include L10, then you're fully justified to increase the tariff. So please explain this point. And then I think they are having it both ways. For the withdrawal of the generation plants which are older, then they will get other incentives, and then a few years down the road they will be having new generation units. If you want to meet the emission caps and yet you want to have new generation plants, new generation units, why can't you sort of withdraw them earlier so that we don't have to allow for capital project when you have the desulfurization units? I know that you have got LNGs, which is cheaper than the gas from the West. I want to know whether we can resort to liquefied natural gas, more of them, so that we can sort of dilute it, so that we don't have to increase it by 11.8%, and nobody can tell the actual price. So can we not sort of consider having more than one sources of gas and allow both companies to have liquefied natural gas so that we can dilute the impact? Yes, Vivian. As it this is about the replacement of the plants or the units. So I think it's better for HEC to answer the question. However, for us to give approval to L10 for HEC, we have looked at the timetable. What we are talking about is a provisional approval. We have to finish our field mix review first, and then we have to complete the market review. Then there will be a written confirmation. Before that, they can't start doing it. Today, we have included it. This is because we anticipate that this may be done. We believe that in the 5-year plan, it's better for us to tell the consumers or the customers earlier so that they can understand the impact on electricity and the tariff. So if you turn to the electrical brief, in fact, for L10, with L10, without L10, we have got a different set of accounts. So get the picture with L10 and without L10. For the gas-through desulfurization equipment, for HEC units that will be withdrawn, we don't allow for the gas-through desulfurization because it will cover a shorter period of time. And then there was one about to be withdrawn. It was in better condition, and therefore we have asked for the useful life to be prolonged. As a result, we are able to extend the useful life, and then we can postpone the need for the gas-fired generation unit. HEC, yes, we said that for 5 years we don't need to increase the tariff. This already covers the construction of L10 in 2016. For L10, it will take 5 years to finish the construction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You don't need to worry. It so happens that we have got 3 from the Labour Party. Lee Chek-yen, you may want to follow up on the same question. Well, I think all the crows are black in color. Just now, Mr. Lam Tai-fai sang praises of Li Ka-shing. Whether it is Kaduri or Li Ka-shing, be it CLP or HEC, they are going to make profits in such a way that they get the last cent from the public. HEC is 20% more expensive than CLP. But then for CLP, if you look at their accounts, yes, they are 20% cheaper than HEC. The worst thing is that they are closing the gap quickly. When we look at the 5-year plan, well, it is 4.2, but very soon things will get even worse. In 2015, the expected tariff increase will be 11.8, and then 7.9, 6.7, 4.1 in 2018. So these are the figures that you have given us. So if we are to follow this route, then it means that in the 5 years to come, things will get worse and worse. It will be about 10% in the coming year, 2015. In this case, the electricity tariff in Hong Kong will become a huge burden, and it will have an impact on both the livelihood as well as the businesses. Of course, I understand that there is this element of natural gas. Perhaps we have to find out who should be liable for forcing you to sign an agreement with the mainland. Probably with competition and with new technology, maybe we can use vessels to transport the liquefied natural gas to Hong Kong. I don't know whether developments in such aspects can lower the fuel cost, but I don't know whether your hands and feet are already tied and you have no flexibility. Now for the 4.2%, I want to comment on why you are increasing it by 4.2 cents per unit. Now the explanation given here is that we have the increase in the ENFA, and then you have got $30 billion more, and then it will be very bad, and then the bill has to be picked up by the public. For the HEC, they need $10 billion, and then COP, $30 billion, and that's even worse. One of the reasons given for the 4.2 cent increase, that's for the purpose of the Tariff Stabilization Fund. What is the government's approval? The Stabilization Fund is for the purpose of stabilization, and yet they're increasing the tariff so as to make sure that the TSF will have its balance increased. So are you increasing the tariff in advance so that we have to pay in advance? How come that the government is giving an approval in this way? So a few questions here. First of all, about the TSF, the CLP is going to increase the balance. And then about the basic tariff, how come that so much will go to the TSF? It's better for the admin to answer the question first. The TSF, you don't want to answer the question, you want to leave it to CLP? CLP then. Mr. Poon. For the 2013 TSF, we would like to make it to maintain the basic tariff, but then we have only got $8 million left only. That is the historically low, just 1% of the annual revenue, so it cannot play the role of stabilizing the tariff. For the FCC, for the fuel cost increase, we are only talking about the estimated increase. We're faced with huge pressure. We would like to do our utmost to lower the rate of increase. Measures that we've resorted to, like optimizing the supply from Yacheng so as to postpone the onset of more expensive fuel. And then in the international market, we would like to get low emission coal so as to reduce the percentage taken up by gas. And then we want to enhance the efficiency of our existing plant. And then, as I have said, we have talked to Daya Bay to see if we can make use of the transmission network to import a small extra amount of nuclear power. And then for the FCC, when there is a positive balance, we hope that we can use it to ease the pressure to increase the tariff in 2015. I think the admin must give an answer. How come that they are going to approve this? How come that they allow the rate of increase to be so huge, despite having the TSF? Dennis Kwok, a question about environmental protection. Paragraph 10 of the paper talks about 47% of the supply will come from gas. I want to know from the Secretary as to when we can achieve the new air quality objectives. Mr. Chairman, well, we have got a blueprint for clean air, and we work through improvements of the two power companies and also improvements in relation to vehicles and vessels. And then we would like to achieve the new targets in 2020. So you expect that in 2020 you can achieve the targets. But what about the fuel mix? When are you going to have a discussion? Well, for the fuel mix, after we've completed our current task, we will soon consult the public. So very soon. When? What is ASAP? Very soon, really very soon. Well, for the green groups, we are all very concerned about this. If you don't talk about the fuel mix, then the 5-year development plan will be difficult to be commented upon, given the... Yes, I think we are all concerned about quality of the environment. Other than air quality, we want to improve it so as to enhance public health. But then, what about the impact on price? We have to take that into account as well. We can't just talk about health before getting about the price. So we have to get the whole picture. So we need time to prepare for it, to get ready. We need to have the whole picture available. Exactly. If we don't talk about the fuel mix, then the price fluctuations will be difficult to forecast. Mr. Chairman, allow me to clarify. Now, for the 5-year development plans, I think they are separate from the fuel mix review, because that's for the for the medium and longer term. So the two should be separate. Paragraph 27, it is said that you encourage the two power companies to find further opportunities to have renewable energy. I want to know what you are talking about in this paragraph. Well, under the SCA, we have a clause to say that if the two power companies make use of renewable energy to generate electricity, then the fixed assets involved can be permitted to gain a higher rate of return. Such a clause will be retained. The 13th member, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have noted that for the HEC, for the basic tariff, in fact, the rate of increase is huge, but they're saying the FCC will come down. Now, for HEC, for the stabilization fund, it has almost been fully depleted. So if they're wrong in the calculation, then in future they have to catch up, and then they have to increase the tariff. That's my first observation. Secondly, the Bureau. For CLP, for the FCC, for the FCA, there will be major increases because of our new air quality objectives. They have to use more natural gas, so the costs will be different. Now, we want to deal with the problem of air quality. So for diesel vehicles, we have got a plan spending $10 billion to ask for the vehicles to be withdrawn or replaced. Now, my question is, when the two companies have already done all that they can, I want to know about the role of the government. Are you going to provide a subsidy so as to make sure that the tariff increase will not, as a result of the new air quality objectives requirements, result in a heavier burden on the part of the customers?
I'll first answer, and then I'll ask my colleague to supplement. We want to have better air quality, and social cost has to be paid. If we use more natural gas, then there is a pressure on price. Some people say that the government can subsidize the two power companies. People have said that if we are really going to do that, we should really help those most in need, and rather to take in across the board approach. If the small shops and grassroots people are affected by the tariff, then they will be rendered help, but not the others. So for CLP, say 1/3 of the domestic users will not be affected by the tariff increase. So we understand that. And small shops, small business, well, we have read all the information. There's no need to go into that, Secretary. Now, if we are to care for the grassroots people, we do have the mechanism to take care of this group. The FCA there will be a drop of 7.1 cents, so that then the tariff can remain unchanged. Now, if the FCA if there are further changes, what will happen to the tariff? We make projections based on the present situation and our future usage. The basic tariff after 2015, that will be kept unchanged. And for the fuel costs, we would try to keep it within a very small fluctuating range. So that's why we can maintain the tariff at unchanged in the next 5 years. One further question. For Hong Kong Electric, they have to prolong the lifespan of their generating units. Can you cooperate with the CLP to reduce the reserve capacity so that the investment cost can be cut as well? After 20 or 30 years experience, we know very well how the two power grids can cooperate to maximize economic benefits. We have already done that. There is nothing further we can do on that front. Well, the question is, after all these years, you haven't been able to connect the two power grids. Hong Kong Electric, on page 5, the basic tariff will remain unchanged in the next 5 years. But then the absolute value of the basic tariff is higher than that in the CLP. And you don't have the incentive to reduce your overheads. In the past few years, have you done any projects to reduce your operating overheads? How come that you are so complacent? And you said that you have done a lot in the past 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Lang, for your question. This graph shows the situation starting from 2013. It doesn't show the situation before 2013. Before 2013, actually, we had cut the basic tariff in 2 years and keep the basic tariff unchanged in 1 year and only increase the basic tariff for 1 year. So we have done everything we can to reduce the overheads. In the past several years, we are also been dealt a great blow by the soaring fuel costs. And this year, we don't have the tariff stabilization fund, and we don't have any more room to further suppress the tariff. From 2009 to 2018, we have increased the tariff by only 7.3 cents in 10 years. So we have exercised the most self-restraint. In fact, in 2018, the net tariff compared to 2008, there is a 5.9% increase. So in 10 years' time, we've only increased the net tariff by 5.9%. We've done our best, I think. I don't want to look at the percentage, but rather the absolute amount. Now, my question for the CLP. The fuel costs will be rising because you are using more natural gas in the long term. Have you made an assessment or engaged a consultant to study that, say, in a free market, you can buy natural gas from anywhere around the world, and you can do hedging? Will you be able to save costs? Have you made that sort of calculation and assessment? Who to take that question? CLP works together with the government to achieve its policies. And according to the memorandum, we have three sources. Among them, the West to East pipeline can supply the natural gas to us in 2015 to meet with the latest emission caps. But the prices are not cheap, but then they are on a par with international standards. Now, as for coal-fired electricity, we would adopt to the short-term and medium-term contracts, and we would try to get competitively priced coal. And we would also use low-sulfur coal. As for hedging, there are high risks. We've seen many companies suffering from hedging activities. We've been here for over 100 years, and it's important that we manage our finance prudently, and we don't want to take risk, or else we will be wasting customers' money. According to your website, you have a profit of $3 billion in 6 months. Mr. Chen Kam Lam, under the SCA, the two companies are allowed to earn 9.99%. It's impossible for us to ask them to earn, say, 0.99% only. The most important thing is what the government can do in monitoring them under the SCA. What I'm most worried about is in the next 5 years, how can we do the review in the best possible way? So I don't think the government should endorse the capital investment proposed by the two companies pending the review. Now, for HKEC is $13 billion, CLP $34.1 billion. So when we talk about the new SCA 2018, then the government is in a disadvantaged position. The most the government can do may be perhaps to push down the 9.99%. So the government in the future, how can you or can you ask the two power companies to keep the excessive capacity at a more reasonable level? Now it's 30% for HEC and 24% for CLP. Of course, they say that this is not a safe level, but then 24% means that consumers have to pay an extra 20% in investment cost. Is that reasonable? On the Hong Kong Island side, the average increase in electricity consumption is only 0.5% every year. And in the next 10 years to 2023, there is an increase of only 5%. Should we allow them to increase investment in the generating units? Of course, some units have to retire. Can we explore prolonging the lifespan of these units? Also, can we rationalize the mix of the generating units? If you do a good emission job, we don't necessarily have to install gas-fired units. Secretary, if we have a new agreement in 2018, I'm afraid that the tariff increase will be even higher than that today. HEC says that it will freeze the tariff in the next 5 years. But I'm afraid, or my suspicion is that the tariff increase after 5 years is going to be very high. Has the administration made an assessment on that? Thank you, Mr. Chen. We appreciate your concern, and we have made good coordination with the two power companies. In the next few years, the generating units, several will retire, but we are allowing for only one unit to be built, new unit to be built. So we try to minimize the factors which may lead to a rise in tariff in the future. Well, the current term will last till 2016, but then the secretary will be in his post until 2017. So it's almost 6:30. I have the right to extend the meeting time for 50 minutes, so I will make that decision. So as to allow Dr. Low Wai Kwok to ask his question, the last member on the list. I am from the engineering sector. When we talk about tariff increase, we should not be in a sort of antagonistic position. We should discuss this issue in a calm manner. We try to ensure that the supply is safe, reliable, efficient, and so on. We have to strike a balance here. And some technical issues are involved. In the last term of government has set out a target for emission reduction in 2020, and then the carbon emission should be reduced by 50%. And in November this year, the Hong Kong government has also set out a emission target for 2015. And my question for the secretary is: are these targets still valid? Of course, we say that we are going to talk about the fuel mix for the future. The last term of government said that to achieve the targets in 2020, the fuel mix is that there will be 50 to 40 in terms of nuclear energy and natural gas. Are we still heading towards the direction? Although I know that we still have to discuss the fuel mix. All along, Hong Kong Electric and CLP, they have different generating units, and they have different statistics on demand and supply. So we are not comparing an apple to an apple here. So my question for the secretary is that what are the missions that you have entrusted to the two power companies? When we talked about the west to east pipeline gas, we were not worried so much about the price, but rather any supply is coming along, whether there should be a supply at all. Now, we said that Yaqing oil or gas field is being depleted. Is it possible to prolong the life of Yaqing gas field?
First of all, about air quality improvement, as Dr. Low has said, we have an agreement with Guangdong province between now and 2020. Both parties have agreed on respective targets, and then there is a midterm review, and then the emission from the two power companies will form a very important part. Therefore, we are working through our laws and regulations to impose an emission cap on the two power companies. Mr. Low, or Dr. Low, was right to say that for the carbon intensity, it is related to the fuel mix. So we are going to talk to the public about such matters, and then the two power companies may want to supplement. CLP, Richard.
And just to answer Dr. Low's question on the supply of gas from the Yaqing field, CLP has been taking gas from the Yaqing field since 1996, The field was originally intended to last for 20 years, so under the original projections the field would have lasted only until 2015. Since 2001 we have explored new supplies of gas to replace the Yacheng gas field, and that is necessary because we cannot extend any further for the Yacheng gas field. So our new supplies will be coming from the west to east gas pipeline and also a new LNG facility that will be developed in Shenzhen to supply both Hong Kong and Shenzhen.
What about HEC? Anything to add? No. Well, this is the end. I'm really worried about misunderstanding about this table from CLP. There will be misunderstanding that on average the increase is 1.8%, but then that's about the basic tariff, not including the FCC. So I'm worried that this may become misleading. So I would like to ask this question. No, I don't think it is necessary. I just want to repeat and emphasize this point. Yes, already there are reports thinking that the future increase is 1.8% only. Let's hope that both admin and members can clarify this point when interviewed. Once again, I'd like to thank the admin and the two power companies for attending today's meeting. On this note, we end this item. AOB, anything under AOB? No. Then next Monday, we are having our special meeting at 10:45 in the morning. Next Monday, we are going to have 3 items. When compared with today's items, well, I think it is not as heavy as today's. There's about the Maritime Fund as well as the replacement of 4 vessels.